World leaders at the G8 Dementia Summit in 2013 aimed to have medication on the market by 2025, and while there have been disappointments with drug trials proving to be unsuccessful, including the large trial for solanezumab, a respected figure in the fight against the disease remains hopeful. Alzheimer's Research UK Chief Scientific Officer Dr. David Reynolds told Express.co.uk he remained hopeful there would be something available by 2025. Some of the current ongoing late-stage trials could now only be a few years away from possibly providing a life-changing treatment. Dr. Reynolds said, "The next hope for treatment are the late-stage trials. They started life the best part of 15 years ago, and we'll get some feedback in the next few years that I hope will allow us to hit the hit and have a life-changing therapy for dementia by 2025, but rather than searching for a miracle cure, researchers have been focusing on attempts to detect the early signs of the disease that affects around 600,000 people in the UK alone, with about 850,000 people suffering from some form of dementia. Getty scientists remain hopeful of treating Alzheimer's disease by 2025. 1 in 3 people born this year in the UK will develop dementia at some point in their lives." Dr. Reynolds said, "There are a couple of trials that have given positive results in small groups of patients, which is great, but you have to do the really big studies to be able to confirm something really works well. There are a couple of potential trials that could be exciting, and I am hopeful that we will hit that 2025 goal and have something available for people." However, the scientist points out that talk of a cure for the debilitating disease may be misleading, as dead brain cells cannot be brought back to life. Dr. Reynolds drew a comparison with treating high cholesterol levels with statins, saying the drugs can help lower a patient's chances of getting a heart attack, but cannot cure someone of suffering a heart attack. Tuesday, July 18, 2017. 7 things you should do every day to stave off dementia, he said. With these diseases, with Alzheimer's being the most common, the damage builds up over a number of years in your brain and your brain cells. When that reaches some sort of tipping point, you start to see symptoms such as difficulty remembering places, names, people, etc. That's usually when someone will go to the doctors and say they have problems, and that's when you'll get a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment, or if it's more profound, a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. By the time someone has got to that stage, quite a lot of brain cells have died. So do we think we can produce a cure, in that some sort of treatment brings back all those brain cells, all that information about who is who, what you did on your honeymoon, etc.? That's unlikely. We don't have the technology to do that. Can we find a treatment that will stop or slow down any ongoing damage? I think that is much more possible, and we are making good progress on that. Alzheimer's Research UK are confident of treating Alzheimer's disease by 2025. Then of course, if you think about it, if you've got that treatment and you get someone as early as possible, it could start to look like a cure because you never see the symptoms. Scientists have been searching for what they call a disease-modifying treatment, something that has an effect on the disease processes that either slows its development down or stops it dead. However, as Dr. Reynolds pointed out, there is no quick-fix solution to tackling the problem. There are 2 key things, according to Dr. Reynolds, that go wrong in the brain with an Alzheimer sufferer: the buildup of amyloid plaques, where the amyloid precursor protein accumulate and become sticky, and tau tangles in soluble twisted fibers inside the neurons. This process takes many years to develop and become noticeable. Alzheimer's Research UK's Chief Scientific Officer Dr. David Reynolds said, "The important thing with this is that we have done clinical studies where someone has mild or even severe Alzheimer's disease, so quite late in the course of the disease. Now we have a better understanding of the disease. Amyloids build up about 20 years before you begin to see symptoms, and that kicks off a domino effect on other systems in your brain and probably take over in terms of causing the damage. So it's like shutting the barn door after the horse has bolted. We've given the amyloid treatment, but to people who are very well advanced in their disease, so in retrospect it's not surprising it hasn't worked. If you were a cancer patient and waited until it had spread all over your body, then turned up to your doctor and said, 'Please treat me,' your chances of survival are pretty low." Researchers are now trying to track back the development of the disease and trying to unearth ways of detecting the disease earlier. Tuesday, December 20, 2016. Work is also going on in the area of gene research where it is possible that while some genes won't mean you get a form of dementia but will increase someone's chances of developing it. Dr. Reynolds said, "Where we are now, we are using these new discoveries about genetics in the last 510 years and starting to drill down on exactly what is going on and how you might come up with a drug that can stop this particular process." Those are still in the laboratory stage, starting to go into early-stage clinical trials, but even clinical trials concerning Alzheimer's can be painfully slow to bear fruit. Dr. Reynolds said, "The clinical trials in Alzheimer's tend to take a long time because what we are looking for is to slow down the rate of progression. You've got to give the drug to the group for long enough that you can see a decline as opposed to those not on the drug and hope less or no decline in those on the drug. Those does take quite a long time, the time period from when a drug is entering clinical trials to having lots of that and having lots of reports saying it's safe and should be approved and generally available. That takes about 10 years in clinical trials. You need to discover something, work on it in the laboratory, then get it on trial. It's a long process to get something to patients."